A year after a WLOX News Now investigation reported on health problems at the 403rd Wing at Keesler Air Force Base, the unit will install a new safety facility 8 years after the facility was first recommended. Air Force Reserve technicians told WLOX they believe exposure to a known carcinogen made them sick. One of them died last August. John Fitzhugh tells us about the safety upgrades.
Amy Delcom has said she will always wonder if her husband Sean would still be alive today if better safety measures had been in place when he worked at the 403rd Maintenance Wing at Keesler Air Force Base.
It's hard. It really is hard, and it's hard to explain, the why. Sometimes they say, why did this happen?
Sean Delcom joined the Air Force Reserves in 2005 and served his entire career as an Air Reserve technician at the 403rd. In 2018, he was diagnosed with lymphoma, a cancer known to be caused by exposure to hexavalent chromium, a key chemical found in the paint used on planes at the unit. The father of 3 died in August 2019. Keeping the 403rd Wing's fleet of Hurricane Hunters and Flying Jennies in the air takes a team of about 450 Air Reserve technicians. Last year, WLOX reported that the 403rd's leadership failed to respond to multiple warnings about hazardous conditions at the unit. Reports of OSHA violations at the 403rd Maintenance Wing first surfaced in 2009 in internal memos obtained in our investigation. Those memos noted the paint facility had been broken since 2008, and as a result, Air Reserve technicians spent their days blasting and painting airplane parts in an open work bay with no control of particulates. Air Force records confirm those particulates contain hexavalent chromium, a cancer-causing ingredient made famous in the movie Erin Brockovich. Multiple documents called for a better decontamination facility beginning in 2012. It took until 2018 for the unit to formally call for a clean room to reduce spread of hexavalent chromium. Now in 2020, Keesler will finally build that clean room.
It basically came from employees' recommendations. They had some concerns.
Colonel Jeffrey Van Duding is the current commander at the 403rd. He was not with the unit at the time of the OSHA violations, but was commander of operations from 2012 to 2013. That's when the first requests for a clean room were made. Van Duding did not say why the action was not taken sooner.
I met with all the folks who do this work in the fabrication shop. This was one of the concerns they brought up, and I asked, how can we make our process better? They asked for a wash facility with showers and a washer and dryer.
The clean room will also include a dedicated space to remove PPE after working with the paints that contain harmful chemicals and a wind blast tunnel to remove additional particles. All of those safety measures will help ensure that no member of the 403rd will spread dangerous chemicals around the maintenance facility or carry them home on their clothing.
Like I said, I think it's great that they're doing it, but at the same time, I just wonder why it wasn't done sooner.
Sean Delcom was one of 6 airmen at the 403rd who shared with LOX their stories of fighting disease and Air Force red tape. 3 of the Air Reserve technicians we spoke to would not go on camera, fearing retribution and citing a lack of support from leadership. Colonel Van Duding has said he doesn't believe any of the airmen's illnesses are linked to exposure to chemicals at the unit.
And to date, no airman with medical issues has met the proof that those issues are a result of their employment here.
The Air Force Reserve Command maintains it's up to the Reserve Air technicians to prove the link between the exposure to hexavalent chromium and their illness. The command points to a 2019 OSHA inspection that showed the 403rd was in compliance, but OSHA never inspected the facility during the years the violations occurred.
They knew that there were problems at the facility. They knew there were broken mechanisms. They knew that, there were a lot of issues that hadn't been addressed.
Since our first story, the 403rd has installed temporary wash facilities for the air technicians to help prevent the spread of hexavalent chromium. Construction on the permanent clean room could begin as early as October. In Biloxi, John Fitzhugh, WLOX News Now.
The fight for safety isn't the only battle the sick reservists have fought. Tomorrow at 10, we will look at the effort to get those technicians better VA benefits that could help cover the treatment for their illnesses.
It's now been a year since WLOX first reported on airmen at Keesler Air Force Base being exposed to toxic chemicals.
There's now an effort to create a law to give VA benefits to reservists working as civilians at military bases.
As our John Fitzhugh reports, that law would give the reservists better access to health care after being injured on the job.
Amy Delcom is now a single mother of 3.
She was just over 18 months old when, Sean passed away, which, of course, all the time she says, I miss daddy. They ask about daddy all the time. They do miss their daddy.
Her husband, Air Force Reserve Tech Sergeant Sean Delcom, died in August 2019 from cancer. A cancer she believes was caused by exposure to hexavalent chromium during the time he worked at Keesler's 403rd Maintenance Wing. A WLOX News investigation last year uncovered documents showing the 403rd violated OSHA standards for exposure to the chemical during the time Delcom worked there. Hexavalent chromium is a known carcinogen made famous in the movie Aaron Brockovich. Delcom worked the same job with the 403rd as a reservist and as a full-time civilian employee, a position known as Air Reserve Technician. Susan Lucas is the Director of Government Affairs for the Reserve Organization of America. She said she believes the exposure to hexavalent chromium should be treated like Agent Orange exposure was for Vietnam veterans.
So it is a requirement of the position to maintain military standards. We feel that that exposure during the week should count towards service connected.
But when Delcom got cancer, the Air Force said his military benefits didn't apply. He would have to file for workers' compensation or pay for his expenses out of pocket.
I don't think that's right. I think these people who are doing a civil service job in a situation where it's also their reserve job in uniform should be treated, or should, be privileged to VA benefits.
The ROA is now drafting a law that would require the Department of Defense to treat Air Reserve technicians' injuries as service-connected.
There is no limit to toxic exposure and how the service members' lives are changed forever. Their families are changed.
For Amy Delcom, helping draft the legislation is something that gives her family a sense of purpose.
I think that by doing what we're going to do with Susan, I think it helps give some purpose. Why did this happen? I don't know why it had to happen to our family. I don't know why it has to happen to the other families, but if we can do something about it that's positive, I know that Sean would be very proud.
In Biloxi, John Fitzhugh, WLOX News Now.
And the new Reserve Health Benefits Law would be named after Sean Delcom and Shannon Jackson, another deceased member of the 403rd. It is expected to be introduced in Congress in 2021.